Hey, it's Max McAllister from Traction Dynamics, back with another Goldwing 2018 Honda Goldwing suspension look here. And actually, what I wanted to show you today was the electronic hydraulic rear preload adjuster and the system that's on the new bike. Um, so if for a lot of people get confused as soon as they hear the word electronic. They think electronic suspension and all kinds of crazy stuff is conjured up. And but what the rear preload adjuster is, there's a mechanism and a system on this bike that will put more or less initial pressure on the rear shock spring. Okay, now with all this is a super expensive, complicated way to do what people used to do years ago by turning a collar down on top of the spring by hand. Okay, now in the case of the Goldwing, it's incredibly or virtually impossible to do it because the shock is hidden in the center of the bike. So there's been a few models of Hondas, the motorcycles that Honda's made, where they put a preload adjuster down low where you can get to it from under the bike. But for this bike, or for the preceding bike, they wanted to make a convenience of that. So you've had a previous Goldwing. There was a pair of buttons by your left knee. You pushed up, and that increased the preload on the shock spring. You pushed down, it decreased. There was a readout that came up on the dash that gave you numbers from 1 to 25. And that allowed you to tune your preload to what you want. So so now those parts are not affecting the way the shock absorbers are damped. In other words, the actual damping units. It's literally just more or less pressure on the rear spring to accommodate different loads. So whether you're riding alone or with passenger or with luggage, okay? So now, so don't confuse any of that with electronic damping adjustment that exists on the new tour models only. So on the new standard model Goldwings, there is a manually controlled knob under the right-hand side cover you turn with your hand. So this function doesn't exist in the dashboard that we're about to show you on the standard models of 2018 Goldwings. So if you come over here on the new tour models, you'll adjust the rear preload by going to the home menu. There's vehicle setting. There it says suspension preload, and it says rear suspension only. There is no preload adjustment on the front of any Honda Goldwing of any year. So just be clear about that. You select it every time. Now you get these 4 icons. So I guess choosing 1 to 25 was too complex for Honda Goldwing owners, even though they can run navigation systems and such. So Honda has dumbed this down to 4 pictures, and the 4 pictures are a solo rider with luggage, 2 up, and 2 up with luggage. So the idea is simplifying that so that, well, basically anybody can kind of look at that and see what they want. Hey, I'm a suspension guy. I don't like it, because truthfully, what does 1 up mean? Well, I'm 1 up, I'm 160 pounds. What if you're 1 up and you're 270 pounds? Well, you're probably going to select something like 2 up, so who knows? These mean nothing to anybody, and other than it's a sort of a generic icon. But there is a problem with this system, and I'm going to encourage Honda 2018 Goldwing owners to complain to their dealers. And so what happens is when you select a button, the computer sends a message to an electronic motor. And by the way, these are the same parts. You can come back to me. These are the same parts that were on 2001 to 2017 Goldwings. There's an electric motor that sits on a cup of oil that's basically a hydraulic pump. The electric motor drives the piston down into a cup of oil. It sends oil down a line to a donut on top of the shock spring. The donut expands and puts pressure on the spring. When you relax the motor unwinds, the pressure comes out of the cup, the donut collapses, less preload. That's how the system works. Basically, though, all that's happening is it's the same as, for years when you turned a collar down on the spring by hand. It's just a slick way of doing it. Now, so having said that, when you activate a different icon, the pump will either the motor will run the pump for a certain amount of time and increase it or decrease it. The problem with the new bike is, and I've talked to lots of owners and verified this, the pump will run a fair amount of time between one up and one up with luggage. It will run less time between one up and two up. And between two up and two up with luggage, there's basically no change. The motor will run, it goes, and that's it. And so it's not making any change. So Honda does not have an effective range on this. And so in a follow-up video in a week or so, we're going to plug we're actually going to measure the preload change on the shock, and as soon as we have one loose from a bike, and tell you how much actual preload is being added so that we can correlate it to your proceeding. So we can correlate these numbers back to your 1 to 25, so maybe it'll mean a little bit more to you. But right now, the difference between two up and two up with luggage is nothing. And so while it appears you are now limited to 4 preload settings, the truth is you've only got 3. So I think this is something that owners need to complain to Honda about, ask for an update. And I would hope it's something that could be done in the software or the firmware of the bike. I'm not sure about that. So so anyway, what I want you to do, we're going to listen to the motor here just so you can kind of, let me have that camera. So I'm going to select, we're going to go from one up to one up with luggage, and you're going to get to hear the motor here. So here's the preload motor running. And that preload motor, you'll hear it, it's down here under the right side cover. So it's tucked back in there. You can kind of see the motor right there, and that's the electrical connector, the sensor that's telling it where it's at on the motor. So you heard it run there. It runs about 10 seconds. Now we're gonna, this is stupid, you have to select every time to go back into that menu. Now we're gonna go to 2 up, from 1 up with luggage to 2 up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the first one runs about 10 seconds. The second one runs about 6. So here I'm going to change it and then select. I'm going to go to 2 up with luggage. Hey Austin, hit just the enter button. Now listen to this. Okay, that was it. So nothing happened. Truthfully, in the real world of any change, nothing happens here. So I'm going to go back down to 2 up. All right, and now I'm going to go back up to 2 up with luggage, just so you can kind of hear. Okay, so the motor isn't actually moving the piston in the cup of oil anywhere to do anything. So basically 2 up and 2 up with luggage, it's wishful thinking to think you're changing anything because you're not. So hopefully we can get Honda to have, or you as Goldwing owners can get Honda to make some sort of change to improve that functionality of the bike, because truthfully it's not working. It's not even working as they intended it to be designed. So hopefully you guys can collectively as a consumer group can get that fixed. So anyway, there's a kind of how you'll change your rear preload, what it's doing, and a little information on that. Thanks a lot. Watch for our videos in the future, and be sure to subscribe to my channel there, and then you'll get updates as I put more videos out.